It's amazing how your fortunes can change from one day to the next. For instance, take about 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when I lost the first plane for reasons I still don't fully understand. That was a complete pisser, in that it meant that I had no working plane, it meant that I didn't really know why I'd lost this one, and that I only had 2 planes left, which really changes the dynamics of how ballsy you can be about flying these things. And then the day after that was a magnificent day, much like this. Beautiful clear sky, down by on the Oregon coast, with all the sort of basaltic structures going into the sea and exploring rock pools and all that sort of thing. That was an absolutely magnificent day. Couldn't be matched. And then more or less the same thing happened a couple of days back. Yesterday in fact. And I stopped off in Eugene, Oregon, early morning, 8, something like that. And I was only going to be there for half an hour, upload a movie, check the email, and then move on. And the getting the movie up was an absolute nightmare, and by the time I'd done a little editing as well, it was past midday. And then I got a load of emails from my employer. My employer wants to keep me in America, which means that we've got to deal with whatever the Homeland Department or whoever they are. And they really do make life hard for you. You've got to jump through all sorts of bureaucratic hoops, which, from my seat, it achieves nothing. All the time that I spend doing this, I could actually have been doing something productive. Anyway, so by the time I cleared up all the stuff that I had to with the visa, it was 7 o'clock or something, and I was exhausted, and so I dragged my carcass down to the lake here, and so I spent last night up on the north rim, where that's where I got the time lapse. Of the Milky Way over Crater Lake, and that turned out quite well, but it was also really blowy and very cold, which made it quite uncomfortable to use the telescope, and also it sort of vibrates the telescope slightly, which makes it more tricky to use. So all in all, a bit of a pisser of a day, the sort of thing that saps your morale, and there's only you, there's nowhere to go, it's just you in the car, so these things are really pretty depressing days like this. And then you follow it with a day like today, when you get views like this, which I have to say are frankly stupendous. And you combine this with sort of a little exploration and going down swimming and not swimming, washing in the lake was over there somewhere. And for those who have always wondered what it's like to have a bath in a volcanic lake, it looks very much like this. The waves. And let's just see if we can get myself in there. Yes, it is bloody cold. And my reckoning is 4, maybe 5 degrees. But once you're in, it's not too bad. And the view is frankly magnificent. Very pretty. Best bathtub in the world. And for those who doubt my temperature assessment, there is the ice on the other side. And I've been into the visitor centre, and between the books that they had, the ranger they had wasn't actually a geologist, but between what little he knew and the books that they had in there, I've more or less worked out how this place formed. from their books, as it were. So what happened is the caldera formed 750,000 years ago, something like that, and about over, I don't know, 100,000 years. So the bulk of the caldera is basaltic. So this is molten oceanic crust that comes up and pours out, and that's usually very hot. And then you get the crustal rock, which melts at a much lower temperature and can also have lots of water in it. And so what happened is, over the years, the very hot rock in the middle, the very hot basaltic stuff, melted the crustal rock, the rhyolite and the such like, with all the water in there, which melts, I don't know, 800, 700 degrees, something like that, Celsius. And that's the stuff, when that blows out of the volcano, that's the stuff that inflates up and gives you pumice. So as far as I can tell, when you get igneous rock coming out and blowing up, you get sinters. However, when it's rhyolite, so this is the crustal plate that's melted, when that blows out you get pumice, which is much lighter. So what happened was, the middle of the mountain was basically now molten rhyolite. So this is molten crustal rock, continental crust, and eventually that sort of broke through and it sort of all blew out, and as it all blew out, the caldera basically collapsed, and that was it. So it was, there was no cataclysmic explosion here like there was with Mount St. Helens, and they know that from the fact there are no blast marks or anything here, but they know that it sort of poured ash and such like into the air, and this was very recent. It was only about 10,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago or something, and eventually the caldera cooled enough, after it had sort of farted out its water-rich rhyolite, water-rich molten rhyolite, the whole thing collapsed and eventually filled up with rainwater and the such like, giving you this magnificently beautiful lake. Interesting, eh? Okay, stuff you can see when you actually look for it. There is the characteristic sort of shape of the cinder cone, but down on this side is the lava flows, which are much flatter. And you can also see they're rougher, because they're covered spattery stuff. But, so it's the same deal that we have with craters of the moon. Nice even cinder cones, lava flows make it up of much more blobbier stuff. Okay, this one I didn't know. So this is all events of one sort or another. But that, apparently, what you have is, there's a volcanic eruption that filled it all up with lava, and then when the caldera collapsed, it only left this side of the lava pocket, as it were, and on top you see all the pumice from the final eruption of Mount Mazama. So that's all the pumice on the top, which is only about 50 feet deep, I think. Anyway, lake, complete with the snow and ice. Beautiful, isn't it? You can see how high we are. Oh, there's other volcanoes down the horizon. I'm not so sure you'll be able to see that, but just in the middle there, there's another volcano.